Hello and welcome to Getaway Day. My name is Gautam. His name is Mason. We are back for some more off-season talk. We're going to get into a number of different topics today, including some of the recent transactions, some big trade targets that are potentially available, and then some juicy rumors. We're going to talk about those.
Only
and
the
winter meetings
juiciest
are
of
coming
rumors.
up. Only the juiciest ones. Before we get started, if you enjoy the podcast, subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Make sure you let us know your thoughts in the YouTube comments, leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or on Facebook and Twitter at Getaway Day Pod. How are you doing today, Mason?
I'm doing all right. A little bit under the weather, if you can't tell based on my voice being a little bit off. So just bear with me as I cough a little bit, blow my nose every now and again. But other than that, I really can't complain.
That is good to hear. So what do you say we get into some of the things that have happened over the last couple weeks here now?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the Angels have been making moves. Do we like these moves? We're about to find out.
Well, so they just traded for Michael Nelson Trout. Checks notes. Actually, Michael Nelson Trout's lookalike, Hunter Renfroe.
Yep. So Hunter Renfroe headed to Los Angeles from Milwaukee. The Brewers received 3 pitchers from LA. I don't know if it's a good thing to be receiving pitchers from LA, but the 3 pitchers involved were Elvis Peguero, Jansen Junk, and Adam Seminaris. They're all between 24 and 27 years old. None of them have very much service time at all. Seminaris has not made his big league debut yet. And Renfroe, I think he's already he's a pretty nice upgrade for the Angels offense. But it also makes me think that they're sort of giving up on Jo Adell.
A little bit. So you're getting Renfroe coming off a career season. And I say a career season. He's been good for the last 3 years. But 2.5 WAR guy last year, 2 the year before that, 2 in 2019, 1.6 in 2018. And he's only been below or like negative WAR one time, and it was negative 0.1 in 2020. So wipe that right out. Doesn't really count at anything, or count for anything in my eyes. So Hunter Renfroe is a really, really good right field bat to get for your lineup. Yeah, it kind of does look like they're saying Jo Adell is not the guy anymore. You still got Trout in center. Who's in left? Taylor Ward?
Taylor Ward for sure is going to get a shot because he played so well this past season.
Yeah.
So I think you've got your outfield set. Now you're banking on return to health from Anthony Rendon, and you've still got several other positions that need to be filled in, but the top of the lineup is looking quite strong again with Ohtani, Trout, Ward,
now
Rendon.
Getting back to the Jo Adell thing here for just a minute. This move does kind of make sense if you think about it, because Jo Adell, his bat was there last year. In the minors, it was there. In the minors, in the majors, it wasn't really showing up, but you could tell that he was probably going to come around. Hopefully,
it's hard to see. I'm not very optimistic on him, though.
Well, but the main thing that kept him down was his defense. Yeah, his defense was just so freaking bad. Like it was not just bad; it was miserable. I would have rather had Eloy Jimenez in the outfield than Jo Adell, who was supposed to be a center fielder. So it kind of feels like you're getting a guy that you know is going to hit. He can play the outfield. He's
great arm.
Yeah, great arm. Maybe not the fastest guy going to make all these big flashy diving plays, but he's a good outfielder. And it still allows you that opportunity to get Adell up if he starts to actually hit. He'll get some playing time. Taylor Ward plays all over the field anyway. It's not like you're completely shutting Adell out. But And let's be real here. The Angels infield has not really been all that great and probably isn't going to be this year either.
Yeah, so if we expand this conversation to another move they made, they added Gio Urshela from the Twins, and I'm not exactly sure what the plan is there. Are they trying to make Gio Urshela their starting shortstop this year?
It kind
That's
of
kind
feels
of what
that
it
way.
sounds like. Yeah.
It kind
Unless
of
they
feels
move
that way.
Rendon over to first base and have Urshela play third, they don't really have a real shortstop. They have Andrew Velasquez, they have David Fletcher, but those guys aren't exactly stellar. And neither is Urshela, but
I'm sorry. Did you just trash Short King David Fletcher?
who's not even a short king. He's 5'9".
He's a short king in my eyes.
Yeah.
I have to look ever so slightly down at him. He's a short king.
Yeah. All right. But so like Urshela is maybe the shortstop of this team.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I like the Renfroe move a lot. I think it helps the team improve a lot. Urshela is an upgrade over some of the guys that they've been messing with. Luis Rengifo did actually have a pretty solid season last year. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do with Rengifo, with Urshela, if Rendon stays at third, if they keep trying to play Fletcher at second. Like, they've got a lot of guys for the positions. It just doesn't feel like they have a big improvement at any of the infield positions. Like, and then now they don't have a catcher either because
they do have.
Well, they still have
Logan
Max
O'Hoppe.
and
Logan
O'Hoppe.
O'Hoppe. So
okay, but so I guess Kurt really wasn't even the starter last year, was he? He was the backup.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I guess that's not really that big a deal, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I really hope that the Angels go out and do something else, especially on their pitching staff side. They need to go get someone who's established. This is something we've been saying for years. You asked kind of why a team would want to go out and get a pitcher from LA, though. And I understand your thought, but also if you're a team like the Dodgers or the Brewers, who is really, really good with pitchers, I actually think that it's probably means that there's something to those guys and they know how to unlock it, or they think they know how to unlock it. And that you potentially see Jansen Junk come up and be in the bullpen this year for the Brewers. Cause like he's been at AAA for what, 38 years, 39.
Yeah. He's 27 now. And we know the Brewers have great starting pitching already, but he's just another good depth option for them. Could pitch out of the bullpen maybe. But yeah, that's a good point. The Brewers probably think that these guys are good, and from their perspective, it kind of makes sense to trade Renfroe because he was going to be a free agent, and they're one of the teams that sort of kind of like Cleveland, where they would rather just not pay people money, and they'll figure out a way to be competitive regardless.
Yeah. Well, so, I just panicked and thought I never actually checked if your audio was working. We're good though.
All right, great. But on the Brewers side, you were saying pre-recording that you thought this might be a sign that they're just kind of mailing it in here. What do you think about the Brewers this offseason, what they're doing here? It's hard to tell.
I don't know what they're doing this year. Like,
yeah.
we'll talk here in a little bit about, and when we get into some of the rumors about like another move that, depending on what the Brewers do in that's kind of your weather vane pointing in which way the wind's blowing for the Milwaukee Brewers. But like, they traded away Josh Hader at the trade deadline last year. Yeah, he only had one more year on his deal. They want to try and get something from or for him, but they really didn't get anything that improved them at the time or in the future. Taylor Rogers is already. Prospects. Yeah, that's true, but they're like a long time away prospects. Like they got Taylor Rogers that they were trying to use for their stretch run last year, and then Dinelson Lamet, who they immediately DFA'd. Like,
Yeah, they got Estuary Ruiz and another prospect too. So
Yeah. But this is a team that has consistently failed to hit. They just traded away their single best hitter on the team. If the other one that we'll talk about here in a bit, if that happens, like you're losing 2 hitters, and it doesn't feel like this is the typical Brewers team that like scrapes the bottom of the barrel to put together a team that's going to compete and get you to the postseason. It feels like the pitching's still there. I mean, Devin Williams is a great guy to have at the back of your bullpen. Nothing against him, but Devin Williams and Josh Hader is a little different than just Devin Williams. And now you're taking away the only people that can hit in that lineup. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Who else is next? Luis Arias? Is he the next best hitter?
Oh yeah, they got Willie Adames, Christian Yelich, who hasn't returned to MVP form.
Christian Yelich is not anywhere near their next best hitter now.
He's pretty close, I would say.
Oh, that's not good.
And that's not a good thing because, so you lose a guy like Renfroe in the lineup, you have to somehow fill it. And we've talked about the Brewers just being like a superstar bat away for years now.
Yeah.
And they're not getting closer unless they really think one of their prospects is going to step in or they go out and sign someone. But it seems like they won't do that.
You're only a superstar bat away if the other bats are complementary to a superstar.
Yeah.
Like,
and the Brewers have plenty of those complementary bats. Like, they don't have any bad players in their lineup.
Well,
they just don't
but
have...
like you need a Clef the Boy Chin Wonder to your Crimson Chin. You need a Robin to your Batman. You need a Hunter Renfroe to a Aaron Judge. And then you need all the other complementary pieces. But like the Cardinals kind of proved for years that you can't just have one bat, like one really good bat, and a bunch of just like guys who are above replacement level, but not by much. Like the Cardinals finally learned how to hit this year, and it was because they had 2 MVP candidates. They had Albert Pujols making an absolute comeback, and then a whole bunch of young guys who hit the ball really well, way above replacement level. Like that's how you win baseball games as a hitting team, and that's what the Brewers need to find. So trading away Hunter Renfroe, who's the closest thing you have to an MVP candidate right now, is a hitter.
He's not very close to being an MVP candidate either.
But he's the closest thing they have. Like it makes no sense if you're trying to compete. So, but David Stearns is gone now too, so this is also a bit of a new time for the Brewers. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, let's switch gears to the White Sox, who signed Mike Clevinger to a 1-year deal for $12 million. And Mike Clevinger is coming off like his worst season in a very long time. He was injured for a good portion of it, pitching through some knee issues. I think he's got some upside there because he's been a really, really good pitcher in the past. I want to say that it had to do with the injuries because he's had plenty of injuries in his career, but he's also getting up there in age now. He's over 30.
He's going into his age 32 season.
Yeah.
So
I don't mind it for the White Sox because they actually have a pretty solid starting rotation with Lance Lynn, Dylan Cease, Lucas Giolito, who needs to bounce back. If Mike Clevinger is your number 4 starter, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a good signing for the White Sox from a pitcher standpoint. I'm curious to see kind of how he meshes with the team, especially with the new manager, because if you remember in the 2020 season, Mike Clevinger is one of the guys that kind of broke a couple of rules. It was kind of a pain in the clubhouse for Cleveland. That's why they traded him. Him and Zach Plesac were the 2 that went out, broke COVID protocols. They went out and were partying and all that stuff. And so it seems like he could be a guy that is maybe an issue in some clubhouses. So I'm really curious to see what happens. Like, I didn't really hear anything bad about him with the Padres, but then again, he only pitched 114 innings for the Padres. So didn't really have a whole lot of time to gel or not gel there either. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me. Like his underlying numbers, like, yeah, he gave up a few more homers per 9 last year than he typically does. So that kind of explains his 4.33 ERA a little bit more.
He stopped striking people out.
And he stopped striking people out. But maybe that comes back if he's healthy this year. So I'm not going to completely write him off. I think this could be a really, really good 1-year contract for the White Sox. Give him a tryout. Give him a year to bounce back. If he clicks with the team, sign him to an extension. So I really see no downside to this at all. But I do think that he might have taken advantage of Tony, though, if Tony were still there, which is why I brought up the whole clubhouse thing. Is I just feel like that's adding more gas to a fire. But luckily, Tony's not there this year.
Yeah, it'll be a completely fresh, I think, vibe around the White Sox with an outside manager, and I hope the White Sox reach their potential. You know, they've had so much of it these last 2 years; it feels like it's been wasted away. But we'll see what happens there. Okay, a big signing. Jose Abreu signed with the Astros for 3 years. So the White Sox lose their first baseman. They're probably going to fill his spot with their mix of a bunch of different guys that all are probably first baseman or DH, and like Gavin Sheets and Andrew Vaughn and whatever else they're going to do. So makes sense that the White Sox wouldn't want to sign a 36-year-old who ended up getting 3 years from the Astros at almost $20 million per year.
Yeah. You said it was what, 58.5?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, this is a really, really good signing for Houston, in my opinion. Houston's no stranger to having an older first baseman. I mean, Yuli Gurriel has been manning first for them for the last couple years. He's a free agent right now as well. And Yuli has been a really good, productive player for them. But Abreu is coming off an MVP in 2020 in that shortened season, and just being a really, really consistently good player in the 9 years that he's been in the majors, coming over from Cuba. So I really, really like this move. I think he's one of those guys that even at his advanced age, in baseball terms, you really don't worry about him. I kind of think about him the same way that I do like the last couple of years of Anthony Rizzo. Like, you kind of forget how good he is, and then he just goes out and he just performs, and you're like, oh yeah, it makes sense that he makes a lot of money. So, and I do think he fills a really big hole that Houston has had, because last year Yuli didn't have his best year. Started out struggling a lot and just kind of turned it on there at the end. So I think this is it's a really good move.
Yeah. And it, like Abreu, yeah, he is maybe showing a little bit of signs of age. Not handling fastballs as well. Didn't have as many home runs as he has in the past. He only hit 15 this past season. But even if he's not the same player, he's still going to be pretty good because he makes so much contact. He hits the ball so hard. I think at least 2 of these years are going to be really good. Maybe the last year is going to be a little rough. Just like how Yuli kind of just fell off a cliff when he turned 38. Same thing could happen with Abreu. Like, you can't really count on him to be amazing 3 years from now.
So you mentioned the relative lack of power this year from Abreu is maybe a sign of bad things. But I actually would like to point you at another guy who went through a pretty similar thing, had a pretty similar season to Abreu, that I think could put those worries away, and that's Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman only had 21 home runs this year. That is considerably less than he's typically had. Still hit over 300, had an amazing season this year, And I don't think people are really worried that Freddie's not going to get it. I think there's just something that happened last year. I mean, you saw home run totals all over the place. Unless you were Aaron Judge, they were lower, period, by a lot. And so I'm not really terribly concerned about that. If that's the only sign that he's getting older, I'm not 100% sure that's all him.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah. Anything else on Abreu or the Astros?
I don't think so. I just want to crap on Bob Nutting now.
Okay. So Bob Nutting's Pirates have signed Carlos Santana to a 1-year, $7 million deal to play first base, or at least play first base some of the time. I just don't understand this move. What are the Pirates doing signing a 37-year-old to just block some other guys that they could give an opportunity to?
I don't know. I literally have no idea what they're doing here. This is a team that is finally starting to get some young, exciting pieces up. They've got another couple guys in their system. That I'm trying to think of who's the next kind of bigger guys. Liover Peguero is, I think, kind of higher up now in the system.
I think there's Andy Rodriguez.
Andy Rodriguez. Here we go.
Obviously, Henry Davis probably in a year.
Yeah, and Luis Ortiz. And it feels like it kind of feels like Bob Nutting is treating this as a let's go get a veteran to teach these young guys how to play.
That is exactly what it is. And it's also a, hey, we went out and we spent money on a free agent.
Yeah. And so we're going to be competitive because we have these really good, young, exciting pieces. And now we've got a veteran who's got a really good resume. Well, yeah, but look at Carlos Santana in the last, 2 years. Not that impressive anymore.
No.
It's, not. What was it? Shania Twain that said, that don't impress me much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. The NL Central is just doing a whole bunch of weird stuff. I don't get it.
Both Centrals are doing weird stuff, but
yeah.
They could have signed anybody more interesting to play first base.
They could have signed Nelson Cruz, and I would have been okay with it. But Carlos Santana, really?
Yeah, really. Okay, so those are the moves that we wanted to talk about that have actually happened. Now let's talk about some stuff that might happen and see where that takes us. Do you want to talk these trade targets or the rumors first?
So let's talk a little bit about trades, because so far we've only talked about free agents last week, so far today. And there's a couple of really big trade targets that are kind of out there that people have been checking in on that could kind of change the landscape of some divisions here. And the first one, to me, the catcher market this year, like every year, is not really all that great as far as options. You've got Wilson Contreras. Awesome. You got Christian Vasquez. Solid. And then there's a complete fall off. So Sean Murphy from the Oakland A's, he's been rumored to be moving for a year now? At
least, yeah.
Yeah, and Oakland has just been getting worse, and so it feels like this is the time. You have teams like the Cardinals who have come out and said, we're going to go outside the organization for a catcher. Well, there's really only 3 options to improve catcher that are outside the organization, so you would expect the Cardinals to be in on Sean Murphy. The Guardians today are rumored to be in. So you're starting to see all these teams that are checking in with Oakland, and they're going to be trying to pry Sean Murphy, thinking he's cheaper than Contreras. He's younger than Contreras. He's a better defender than Contreras. So there's a lot of reasons to like this guy. Andy's got like another 1 or 2 more years of control.
3 more years or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's got a crazy amount of control left. He is going to be expensive for a team that gets him. And so I think it'll be really interesting, especially with the winter meetings starting on Sunday and going through Wednesday of next week. he's probably the biggest one that's going to be discussed as far as trades. And I wouldn't be shocked if you started hearing names like Shane Bieber going back to Oakland in exchange for him. Like,
that seems insane.
it does, but I think the cost is going to be that high. Like,
I would never trade Shane Bieber for a catcher, no matter who the catcher was.
Let's just say if you don't put in a guy like him, you're going to be giving up a ton of prospects, multiple top hundreds.
I think Cleveland can afford that. They've got such good prospects. A lot of their positions are kind of occupied by solid major league players.
Yeah,
I think they have
middle infielders galore.
Yeah, exactly. They're in a perfect position to make this kind of deal with Oakland. But Oakland, on the other hand, should definitely play this to their advantage and try to get the other teams fighting each other for this guy, because he is clearly superior to like the Gary Sanchez's and the Roberto Perez's and
he's better than Christian Vasquez. Like he's literally the second best catcher available.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah, I really think this is a situation where Oakland needs to be calling the Cardinals every day too, because the Cardinals are pretty much just as stacked at the top of the minors is the Guardians, and they're looking too. So, and they're pretty vocal about looking for a catcher. So this does seem like a really good situation to be in if you're Oakland. And Billy Beane is no longer involved, which I think is pretty recent, isn't it? Recent news.
He's still involved. He's like,
I thought he just stepped out and he's just an advisor to the team now.
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't been like the main guy for a little bit now, so
that's true. But I don't know. It's he's got to be like the biggest trade target, and for very understandable reasons. But I guess you got anything else on Sean Murphy, or you want to talk about some of these other guys?
Yeah, just the Oakland's in such a bad position right now. It's like makes sense to trade Murphy, even though he's got like 3+ years of control, right?
Yeah.
They need to add more talent, and trading a catcher is not, if you can get legitimate impact talent from trading your catcher, you got to do it.
Yeah, because I mean, their talent right now is Christian Pache, like your stereotypical center fielder. Doesn't really have a very potent bat, good defender. They've got Shea Langoliers is another catcher that's right in the wings for them that can pretty much instantly replace, at least for their sake, Sean Murphy. So like, there's no reason not to do it. They've traded away Chapman and Olsen already, so they've kind of lost their guys there. Ramon Laureano, I think, is maybe their biggest bat left. Yeah. So, yeah, they absolutely need to go out and trade him. They need to get some pitching too, though, because Paul Blackburn is, I think, is Paul Blackburn a free agent?
No.
He's just their best pitcher.
Yeah.
But speaking of pitchers, though, a guy who has been also been rumored to be moving for years, starting pitcher for the Miami Marlins, Pablo Lopez. He's been rumored to go up to Toronto at the trade deadline last year. That didn't happen.
I think the Yankees, too.
The Yankees. People thought the Cardinals were going to go in on him. And he's definitely going to be in talks again this winter meetings. And I feel like this is the time that he does finally get traded. I mean, they don't really need him in their pitching staff. So
yeah, like he's a solid pitcher. He's obviously good enough to be in their rotation and everything, but with the pitching talent that they have coming through and the desperate need they have to have actual good batters in their lineup, they need to add some major league. Like, this needs to be a swap that's like major leaguer for major leaguer. Get a real hitter in return. I don't know who that would be, but
yeah, I'm trying to think what teams have like. When is okay? So it's 2 more years of Pablo Lopez. That's what I was trying to check. So you've got 2 years of Pablo Lopez that you're trading. You want an impact major league bat. Who has impact major league bats to trade that is looking for a starter? A 26-year-old starter. Really good numbers. He's probably a solid number 3.
Yeah.
What teams have that?
It's a tough ask. That's why maybe he hasn't been moved in the past, because their price is probably ridiculously high for this guy with so many years of control, his age, like you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I don't know if this is one. Let me know what you think about this. Jesse Winker, Pablo Lopez, Jesse Winker, and probably 1 or 2 others.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, but
I don't know that the Mariners really need another pitcher. I mean, if they could get rid of Robbie Ray and add in Pablo Lopez, they'd do it in a heartbeat. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of like teams that have extra hitters.
Extra guy. Yeah. And that's a good point about Winker. Yeah, he seems like he's the odd man out when they just added Teoscar Hernandez to their outfield. So
and he went, and Jesse Winker, I think it would probably benefit him just from a mentality standpoint, going from the most hitter friendly park in the majors to one of the most pitcher friendly parks in the majors. Go back to something it's still pitcher friendly down in Miami.
That's not Miami, that's for sure. I was going to say that's like that's basically just as bad.
It's not. It's roughly the same as Busch, though, isn't it?
Which is the worst, basically, in the league.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they don't want him. Well, no, Philly's not going to trade any. Well, Philly might. Does that seem like something Dombrowski might do?
Maybe, but I don't see a logical major league bat in return, if you're asking that question.
Dom Smith.
I think Dom Smith's a free agent.
Shit. Well, that failed. I tried. I'm really curious to see what happens. I don't think the Marlins are going to be able to get a big impact bat at the major league level. I think they could probably get some major league pieces, but I do think it's going to be one of those situations where they're going to have to go for the really high upside, high level prospect. Like, they could probably get a top 10 prospect for Pablo Lopez straight up.
Yeah. But I'm confused. I don't understand Miami's direction. Are they trying to compete? Are they trying to take a step back from
that's
the bad team they already were? I don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah, and with Skippy being in his first year, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that team. Yep. So,
another team that's very confusing is the Cubs, who have, I guess, Ian Happ on the trade rumor list. He's got 1 more year under Cubs control. He's a pretty reasonable extension candidate for this offseason. But if they aren't able to extend him, which I don't know if he will want to, I feel like he wants to get to free agency. They could trade him, I guess, but I don't think that would be a smart thing as a Cubs fan. Like, I think he's a guy they should keep around because they don't have a whole lot of good bats right now.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see him or to see Ian Happ in that list that I was looking at, but it just kind of, it was an intriguing name to me because Happ is one of those guys who he's a switch hitter. He's a left fielder. He's had some really amazing seasons. He's had some really lackluster seasons. So I don't even know what his value would be on the trade market. He's only got 1 year left. Like, I don't know. I could see him being in talks. Like, I think a lot of teams would love to have him in their outfield, especially a team like the Marlins. Like, he would be a huge upgrade for that team. And there's a bunch of other teams who are really, really young that he would benefit.
I don't really see the motivation for the Cubs to trade him, though.
There isn't any. Like that's the thing. But
so I'm just gonna quash that rumor right now. I'll be pretty surprised if he gets traded. And that just means that the Cubs are not trying to compete at all. One more, Rafael Devers. He's been rumored to be like getting close to signing a major extension with the Red Sox. Do you see him getting traded? This is a similar situation, just on a more of a superstar scale with Devers as Hap. Why would they trade him?
So the only reason that Boston would trade Rafael Devers is if he tells them, I am not signing an extension until I hit free agency. Yeah. If he doesn't say those words, they should not trade him. If he says those words,
he have left? He has multiple years left, right?
I thought it was just one.
Oh, just one. Okay.
I think so. So if he says he is not signing an extension, you trade him now. You will get a lot for him. He's an amazing young player, especially at third base, which is kind of an underrepresented position on the market this year. I think Justin Turner might be the best third baseman available.
It's very rough at third base right now.
So once you get past the top four shortstops, that's kind of it for the left side of the infield that's available this year. So Devers is kind of a prime guy to get you a big haul back. Now, if he's willing to entertain negotiations throughout the season, you keep him. You do whatever you can to lock that guy up. You've already lost Bogaerts to the free agent market. He could come back, but it's kind of not feeling like it anymore. You need to lock down Devers because he's the only cornerstone guy left. Betts is gone. JD Martinez was not really that good anymore, but he's gone. Benintendi, Bradley, literally the Killer Bees outfield they had going on. Bogaerts, Christian Vasquez.
The World Series team is gone.
Anyone that they've tried to replace with, also gone. So it's kind of one of those that it's like, can you convince Devers to be the building block? And then you have to build around him. And if you can't convince him, you need to ship him out. So.
Yep. And just one more thing on the Red Sox. So we're talking about like the Red Sox, they only have $134 million committed for 2023. That is not typical of the Red Sox. Like they have plenty of money to make that extension happen, re-sign Bogaerts, and do a bunch of other stuff because they need plenty of other help on this team. They barely have any players like under contract, it seems like. So I'm confused by the Red Sox, just as I am the Cubs.
Yeah. I don't know. Those are kind of the only four trade targets that I really wanted to talk about. I think from here, we should probably move into more of the rumors, some of the other free agents that are available that we didn't talk about last week. But with the winter meetings coming up here this next weekend, it kind of seemed like we would be doing you all a disservice if we didn't at least throw these guys out there. As you might be hearing their names, maybe they're going to be on your favorite team. So, yeah.
So juicy rumors time?
Juicy rumors time.
Mariners are rumored to be looking for a left-handed second baseman. They actually had a left-handed second baseman. His name was Adam Frazier, who was very bad this season. And they're looking for an upgrade there. Who could it be?
Colton Wong.
Colton Wong.
I think it could be Colton Wong. So Jerry DiPoto is checked in with the Brewers on Wong's availability. That's the one that I was referring to earlier when I said that'll kind of dictate what the Brewers are doing. They've already traded Renfroe. If they trade away one of their middle infield guys, then they're kind of going for they're kind of going to tear it down and start over. Colton Wong is aging. He's 33, 32.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Maybe not the flashiest name, but he's still a really solid player. And I think he would be an upgrade, especially over Adam Frazier.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's who they're targeting right now. I don't know who else they could get realistic. Is Gene Segura a lefty?
No.
No? Okay.
The free agent market of lefties and switch hitters is not so good. You got very old Robinson Cano. You got switch hitters Cesar Hernandez and Jonathan VR coming off awful seasons. Jace Peterson potentially. Other trade candidates could be like maybe like Kevin Biggio. I don't know. Like options are not amazing.
That's interesting. I do think Cavan might actually benefit from a change of pace too. Like he's kind of.
And he doesn't really have much of a role on that team either.
He doesn't have much of a role, and he's really been struggling the last couple of years. But he's got a lot of talent. So I think that he would be a really intriguing get. So.
Yeah. And then, I mean, what do you think about the Mariners going out and getting that top shortstop and then either having him play second
or move JP over?
Move Crawford to second? Like we did talk about that a little bit previously.
I think that's the move that I would, as a fan, I would want to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think JP would be too offended to move over to second base if you got Carlos Correa, if you got Trey Turner. I think that takes that team that went from Cinderella in 2021 to a
legitimately good team
to a legitimately good team in 2022 to maybe
we can overtake the Astros.
I don't want to say a favorite, but it takes the Houston from being a favorite and kind of puts it in a toss-up.
That would make the Mariners very exciting if they had Trey Turner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And JP and Trey just stealing bases all over the place. Can you imagine that? That'd be great.
Yep. Aaron Judge, #1 free agent, has an offer from the Yankees for approximately $300 million in 8 years, which would break Mike Trout's position player AAV record. So,
which is currently $36 million. That would put it at 37.5 for those of you that are not very quick with the math.
And they're also, the Yankees are said to be willing to go more to beat another offer from another team. So
yeah, so if you're a Yankees fan, this is a good sign.
Yeah. I feel like other teams should just try to drive the price up at the minimum.
Oh, 100%. And to be honest, I think San Francisco might do it in earnest, like actually trying to sign him by running it up.
Very well might.
I am curious to see what Judge's thoughts are. If he wants to return, like I'm sure he would love to return, but also I could see a world where maybe he wants to get out, try something new, see a new place. So I'm curious to see how high that number gets before he's just like, yeah, let's stop talking to other teams. So.
Yep. And we were talking about this pre-show with maybe Carlos Correa and Scott Boras working together to break whatever Judge signs for immediately after. Do you think Scott Boras is the thing that holds up all these off seasons?
Yes. Straight up. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think it's actually been said by some MLB execs that Scott Boras is kind of the reason that things get held off.
Yeah.
And he does a great job for his clients. So if you're his client, you really shouldn't care. But it does kind of make it frustrating for all of us as fans, for teams that are just trying to build their freaking roster. You got this one guy who's going to sit there and convince you that Marcus Semien is worth 8 years and $200 and something million. But, oh well, Rangers are going to Ranger, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Correa could realistically I don't know that he could necessarily beat the AAV of 37.5, but I think he could beat the 330 million guaranteed largest contract for a position player set by Bryce. So I think either way, I think Correa is going to set a new best in something. I just think it'll probably be the overall. But Correa did get a couple offers from the Twins last week. No specifics were really mentioned, but there were a couple of different offers ranging from 6 years to 10 years.
I believe it was 6, 8, and 10-year contract offers.
Of different AAVs per. You would assume the higher AAV would be for the shorter deal, which you're probably looking at somewhere around 37.50 to 40 for 6 years. So 6 year 240-ish, 220 to 240, all the way up to 10 years that you're probably looking at 10,300 is what my guess is that looks like. But yeah, so the Twins are still in on Correa, trying to bring him back. He said he's very willing to go back if they pay him the money that he deserves. So we could see it happen.
Yep. And Wilson Contreras will be meeting with the Astros at the winter meetings after they shut down the trade for him during the trade deadline. This one makes a lot of sense, especially considering the way that Jim Crane appears to be willing to spend a bunch of money. He spent a bunch of money on Abreu. He's willing to go top of the market for the best catcher available. That's clearly a hole on the Astros offense. And they also mentioned that they could use him as a left fielder and a DH. So get Alvarez off the field a little bit, get Wilson off his knees, and
and you leave Maldi back there to just work his magic with the staff. So
right,
yeah, no, it's a really, really good fit. I don't want to see it happen just for a couple reasons. One's very selfish. I want the Cardinals to sign him. That's the selfish one. Throw that out the window. As a baseball fan, I almost don't want to see it happen because I want to see there be a little bit more parity around some of the teams. This Houston team is just so good already. I don't want to see them get better. Like, they've made the ALCS, 5 years in a row? And the World Series now 2 years in a row. Skip a year. They did it another year in there somewhere. Yeah. It's a dynasty, even though they don't necessarily have all the rings to show you a dynasty. They've got 2. People tend to say 3. They're a dynasty no matter what. I don't want to see them get better. I want to see a new team. But it just makes too much sense for that to happen. So,
all right. Well, any other rumors we should hit on before we get out of here this week?
I don't think so from the rumors. I kind of want to see, in your opinion, and this is going to just like the rest of the free agents. So we talked about the top 10 last week. We talked about some of the guys that have signed that weren't top 10. We've talked about some of these rumors that are kind of getting back to your top 10 guys. I kind of want to hear, in your opinion, who is like the best underrated free agent at each position. And I don't really necessarily need like a 10-minute spiel on each one, but like, we've got so many guys that we still have not talked about that they're not worth talking about for 10 minutes, but I feel like some of these guys still need love.
This guy was sort of trashing him for only having one like full good season before, but I'm convincing myself that he's a good free agent, and it's Brandon Drury, who is he can play all around. He can play first, second, third. He's only 30, and when you compare him against the other like third baseman in the market, you've got 38-year-old Justin Turner, 33-year-old Jace Peterson, 35-year-old Josh Harrison, 37-year-old Evan Longoria. You got a bunch of like guys near the end of their career. Brandon Drury could realistically have 2 or 3 more similar seasons to the one that he just put up this year, which was a 3-WAR season. That's an incredibly valuable player to have on your team. So
yeah,
I feel like he's like sort of an underrated free agent signing.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm kind of curious. I'm trying to remember what his. So Jamer, who is an inferior third baseman.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah,
Jamer's an inferior third baseman to Brandon Drury, but he still got $5 million for a season to go over and play for the Nationals, and so Brandon Drury should get a pretty sizable pay increase over that. Like he's a $10 million guy based on that. So
I think so. Yeah. You got one free agent like that too?
So at third base, so I'm currently
It
looking
doesn't
at
have to
second
be
base.
third base. It can be anywhere.
Let's see.
What about an outfielder?
An outfielder. I was actually going to go to a pitcher.
Okay, go ahead. That's fine.
So I do think Chris Bassett is maybe the next best starting pitcher available. And Chris Bassett is probably no higher than a number 4 on most teams. Like there's some teams that are pretty.
I think he's a little bit better than that.
That's fair. Maybe on most teams he'd be number 3. On some of the really good pitching teams, he'd be number 4. But I don't know. Chris Bassett though is one of those guys that like we've been talking about Carlos Rodon. We've been talking about Verlander and DeGrom. But Chris Bassett is probably, if the Cardinals were to go out and sign him today and hadn't even talked to the other guys, like I would be upset, obviously, that we didn't talk to the 3 best starting pitchers on the market, but that would be a really, really good pickup. Because last year he had a 3.42 ERA, a 3.66 FIP, and 180 innings with 2.7 WAR. Not a huge strikeout guy. He's a big ground ball guy. So he's not going to be that overpowering guy, which is what you're getting in a Carlos Rodon, in a Jacob deGrom. But he's a different look pitcher that would benefit a lot of teams, especially teams with good defenses like your Cleveland Guardians, like your St. Louis Cardinals, like your New York Yankees, apparently, because they won the Team Gold Glove.
They got a great defense this year.
But yeah, so I think Bassett is maybe not underrated. I think just under talked about.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm looking up and down this outfield list, and once you get past the top free agents like your Judge and your Nimmo, like there's a major drop off here.
What, you don't like Benintendi?
Not really, no. I don't know. Like these guys are, older. Some of them, I mean, a lot of them have some serious flaws. I'll point out Joey Gallo here because he's coming off the worst year of his career. He's got something going for him that a lot of these other free agents don't, and that's his age. He's only 29, and he's been an all-star player in the past. So maybe he takes like a 1-year deal with the like average team, not necessarily contender, and gets back on the free agent market when he's 30 and kind of rebounds this year. Same thing with Cody Bellinger, but
yeah,
the Bellinger. Did we talk about Bellinger yet?
I actually don't think we did.
I don't think we did either, but he was obviously non-tendered by the Dodgers. I guess at least 5 teams reached out to him within the hour of his non-tender. There's probably several more teams that are interested in him.
And to be, I mean, we've talked about him so many times over the last 2 years now. Like Bellinger, he's a former MVP. He's a rookie of the year. Like the talent is there. There's something mechanically that, and it's either mechanically or mentally or both. And I think it's mechanical because it's mental, that he has not been able to figure out since those good seasons. I think a change of pace, a new hitting coach is exactly what he needs. And so every single team should be willing to go out there, take a $10 million flyer on him this year. Like he was scheduled to make 18 mil in ARB, I think, roughly.
I'm pretty surprised that a team didn't just make a trade for him and just try to take the chance on that.
Yeah, but like now you don't even have to pay him that. Like you don't have to go to ARB. You just sign him to a contract. Offer him 15 mil. He'll probably take it if it's a team that's like a team like Toronto would really benefit from. I mean, every team would benefit, but like now that Teo's gone, there's a spot. Maybe try him out there. Ashley wants him to come to the White Sox. I feel like that would be a really good spot because they still need an outfielder.
I can compare him to like Kevin Kiermaier. If he hits the way that he did this past season and then plays great center field defense, he's Kevin Kiermaier.
Yeah,
but if he turns back into half the player he was in his MVP season, then you've got yourself a bargain.
Well, and Kevin Kiermaier is this is something else we've talked about for years. If you're playing center field and you're Kevin Kiermaier, that is completely worth it to most teams. Like,
you can
that's why you're like Christian Pache.
Below average.
That's why your Christian Pache was such a big deal to the A's for them to get him. That was Harrison Bader for most of his career. Kevin Kiermaier, obviously. Like, that's a valuable player to a team. If you can figure out even a little bit his bat, you won the lottery. So,
and Scott Boras did mention that several teams reached out with multi-year offers, and he said, no, we're signing a 1-year deal because he knows that getting how old is Bellinger now? He's
27.
He's 27, so he would hit free agency in proper, assuming he bounces back as a 28-year-old. He could be extremely sought after. Next year.
So, it's really interested to see where he goes. Every single team should be in on him. I mean, hell, even the Dodgers should really try and get him back. They're not gonna, but
okay. Well, hopefully next week we'll have plenty of actual things to talk about instead of rumors, because we do have the winter meetings coming up starting on Sunday. A lot of other interesting stuff, including the Contemporary Era Committee Hall of Fame announcement, the Rule 5 draft, the amateur draft lottery for the first time. And hopefully free agent signings and trades as well.
Oh yeah, tons of fun stuff. The Christmas season is upon us, so we're going to have some fun. Which actually reminds me, I don't think I've told you about this, Gotham. Christmas season's here. You know what that means, right? For me specifically.
Mean? What?
It means the Advent calendar is back. So, for those of you that don't know what the Advent calendar is, last year, I bought an Advent calendar from Cheap Fun Breaks. They're a baseball card breaker down in Florida. He put together an Advent calendar that has a different pack every day. Opened it, pulled some really cool stuff, had a lot of fun with it, posted all of it to my Twitter. This year, I bought it again. He's upped the ante, put some better stuff in there. Actually sent a full-on present for Christmas Day as well, which is another hobby box. I am going to record every pack opening starting tomorrow, December 1st. I'm going to open one pack a day, put it on our TikTok, put it on our YouTube shorts, and bring you guys along the ride with me. There's going to be some autograph cards in there. There's going to be some numbered parallels. We're going to see a lot of cool stuff. Make sure to follow along on our TikTok and our YouTube. And I'll post pictures on the Twitter machine there as well. Going to be a lot of fun. So you guys should definitely follow along on that one.
All right, will do. And if you enjoy the podcast, subscribe on YouTube, your podcasting apps, hit that notification bell on YouTube. Don't miss any future episodes. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on YouTube or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We would really appreciate that. And then Facebook and Twitter at Getaway Day Pod.
And TikTok at Getaway Day Pod.
And TikTok.
Did I hear you say the notification bell?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, my bad. I just wanted to make sure. I love smashing the subscribe button and ringing that bell.
Yes.
Tons of fun. All right.
Until next time, we will talk to you next week and have a great day.